So today we'll be talking about China's internal security challenges. So here is the roadmap for the seminar today. We'll begin with the discussion of the formation of the CCP and the PLA. Then we will look at the development of Chinese perspectives. We'll then go through the Chinese strategies and mechanisms for managing internal security, and we will end for the cases for discussion: the 25th anniversary of Tiananmen Square this year, the Hukou system, the siege of Wuhan from 2011, and the case of the successionists of Tibet, Xinjiang, and Taiwan, and the blending between internal and external security challenges. China has always had an obsession with internal security and public order, which is rooted in the history of the CCP and the PLA. Ruling from the centre over a large and diverse territory, the search for national stability and a concurrent fear of its potential negative consequences have been prevalent among Chinese elites both before and during the post-1949 Chinese Communist Party era. Often reflected in an enduring practice of national governance resting upon a singular and oligarchic figure or group that dominates the bureaucratic apparatus, the CCP have in many senses continued traditions from the pre-1911 imperial period. This continuance has also rested upon an acknowledgement of the same perpetuating concerns regarding the Chinese landmass, the management of its population, and the maintenance of centralized authority. Central to these concerns has been a sustained, if tacit, respect for Confucian ideals of a hierarchical and still largely patriarchal order with which to maintain a stable society. While this assertion appears at odds with the overarching communist ideal of equality, it is the form of governance and key organizational principle that has remained central to the nature of politics, both within the CCP's own governing apparatus and across China as a whole in the post-1949 era. It has become the hallmark of the CCP's historical role to be the sole legitimate governing force destined to protect, serve, and represent the Chinese people. The current leader, Xi Jinping, in his inaugural speech to the Party Congress in November 2012, talked of accepting the baton of history and continuing to work for realizing the great revival of the Chinese nation in order to let the Chinese nation stand more firmly and powerfully among all nations around the world. The military wing of the CCP and its primary security apparatus, the People's Liberation Army, was founded as a revolutionary army for the communists, whose mission was to defeat the Kuomintang nationalists in the Chinese Civil War. In the last stage of the Civil War in the late 1940s, Mao Zedong's PLA made the transition from a guerrilla force to a regular infantry. After victory, its major mission was to subdue the CCP's remaining internal enemies, scattered Kuomintang units that remained on the mainland, landlord militias, clan armies, bandits, and armed minority fighters in Tibet and elsewhere, some of whom were aided by the Kuomintang and the United States. The power of Deng Xiaoping and his successors continued to rest to some extent on a military base, although not as exclusively as Mao Zedong. Deng gradually moved the military out of day-to-day politics and reduced its role in maintaining civil order by reviving the role of the People's Armed Police, the PAP. Yet the military has remained the ultimate bulwark of regime survival and the last line of defense for the CCP. This was evident in the suppression of demonstrations in Lhasa in 1989 and Tiananmen Square, in which civilian authorities called on the PLA to disperse demonstrators. Starting from the 1980s, the PLA's internal security role was legally codified. The 1982 Constitution allowed the state president to declare martial law, but gave no further guidance about the operation of martial law troops. In 1996 and 1997, the National People's Congress adopted a law on martial law and a national defense law, respectively, which both authorized the national or local government authorities to request the PLA to assist the regular police and the PAP in maintaining public order in situations in which state unity, security, or public safety is threatened by turmoil, rioting, or other serious chaos. The decision whether to deploy the PLA after receiving such requests still remains vested, though, in the Central Military Commission, which in effect keeps ultimate power in the hands of the top party official who also chairs the CMC, which is now Xi Jinping, the President of China. Once deployed, martial law troops are authorized to ban assemblies, marches, demonstrations, strikes and other crowd activities, control news and communications, restrict travel, impose curfews, ban public access to certain areas, and also, if necessary, shoot people identified as threats. In 2004, a constitutional amendment was adopted to permit the declaration of a state of emergency, and in 2007, the National People's Congress, the NPC, adopted an emergency response law. The law defined emergencies broadly enough to include not only non-political events, but also threats to social stability. Thus, the PLA's primary mandate is just not external challenges, but internal security ones as well. It must be noted that the PLA is the military wing of the CCP and not a standing army for the Chinese nation. Overall, it serves to ensure the survival of the CCP.